everyone, I'm Mikaela.
I'm Faith.
And today we're going to talk to you guys about exercising kind of during the winter months because it's daylight savings time, so there'll be a little less light and a little more cold, and we know that can be a very challenging time of year to get your exercise in, especially if you are someone that likes to be outside.
Right, so we'll begin first with attire. If you are going to exercise outside, like choosing what you are going to wear outside is very crucial just for, your safety as well as your comfortability. So, do you want to start?
Yes, so I brought a lot of things today to kind of show you guys how to properly layer up for outdoor exercise if you want to stay outside. So the first thing before you even go outside, it's important that your body's already warm. So if you're going for a walk in your neighborhood, that's easy. You can kind of warm up before you even get outside. If you're going to a trail after work, that can be a little harder. Maybe just keep the heat on really high in your car. You want to have either a light sweat going or just feeling very warm throughout your core region before you start exercise. The colder you are, the tighter your muscles will be. It'll be harder for those muscles to loosen up when it's cold because when we shiver, when we're trying to retain body heat, everything kind of tightens up further. So you would be more likely to pull a muscle or have a joint sprain or anything like that if you're not properly warmed up. To stay warm after your warm-up, it helps to be dressed appropriately. So if it's really cold out or if it's windy, it's always best to layer, and you want to have 3 layers. So this shirt I have on right now is called a base layer. When it's not that cold, if it's not windy, sometimes you can get away with just this depending on what you're doing. It retains the body heat, but is still breathable enough from the sweat to kind of wick off my skin and not contribute to any extra dampness that makes me feel colder. You also would want a middle layer. So I have performance jackets like this that you would put on over your base layer. And this kind of just helps you retain the heat for when it is colder and you want to have that extra warmth. And then those of you who like to walk might also find an outer layer, like a winter jacket, is really helpful. I do a lot of running, so I usually use a vest as my outer layer. And this keeps all the heat in and also protects from like wind and rain and the elements if that happens. Okay, so you're all set up. The nice thing is, as you exercise and you get warmer, things like this are easy to take off. They're nice and thin, and you can just kind of take them on and off as needed. You also want to make sure your extremities are covered, especially when it's windy and they get cold really easily. I prefer things that aren't bulky and that I can easily remove. So I always try to make sure that my base layers and middle layers have these thumb pockets. So I can pull my sleeves up over my hands. It keeps my hands nice and warm. But when I start to feel warm, I can just pop my hands out. And then I have that extra breathing on my skin. You also could have a hat. I know people that walk, they like to have their hats, they have their earmuffs. If you're someone that hates bulky outerwear, these headband style earmuffs are really good. You just put them on like this. And again, these are really nice because if I do start to get really warm, I just take it off, crumple it, shove it in my pocket, and now I'm good until my ears start to burn and I need to put them back on. And a final thing that can be really helpful for people, especially if you're someone that when you go outside you find it's really hard to breathe, that air entering your lungs tends to hurt your chest. You can use a neck gaiter or a scarf, and that just goes on like this. I have the ones that hook on your ears, but then you can breathe like this. As you breathe in, the air is warm through your mask, and you'll find that it's a little bit easier to kind of get that air in because it'll be warmer. And you can pull it down once you warm up. Keeps your neck warm. You can take it off really easily. Use it as a headband when you're done with it as well. And then one final thing is you want to make sure that your shoes are fit to go outside. So if you have shoes that look like this on the bottom, you don't want to be wearing these out in the winter because they'll have no traction. If there's ice, if there's branches, if there's things you can't see, it's dark, your rocks, your visibility's limited. This is like you're gonna fall. And no one wants to do that. So you really want to make sure that your shoes have the traction, you have these grooves, you have that extra protection. So if you haven't bought shoes in a while, now's the perfect excuse. You also want your outerwear to be bright and colorful.
Yeah, wearing like reflective, yeah, either clothing, shoes, or having like, this is actually like an armband I got. So like maybe putting this over your sweater if you're doing it in the winter, if you're running outside. And that reflective aspect of it actually is useful, because if you are like crossing the street and it's a little darker, especially because as the winter comes, it gets more darker earlier in the day, that would help for your safety, making sure that cars see you when it does get dark in the evening.
And it's always best to kind of wear those things even in the daytime during the winter, just because the sun does set so fast.
Right.
It can take a while to come up in the morning, and even when it's cloudy, if it is starting to rain or snow, it is hard for cars to see you. So it's always better to be safer than sorry, and just be bright and obnoxious on the side of the road and make sure you're okay. So also best to wear those sorts of things on trails too, because bikes can come up pretty fast and they might not see you with the dimmer light either. I think
going into indoor.
Yeah, so that kind of sums up our outside portion. I just kind of have one more tip that leads really well in a face section here. Those of you that do like to exercise outside and you're not really deterred by the weather, but you don't like to be outside when it's dark, you can change the time of day you exercise. You can try to exercise more in the afternoon if you have like a lunch hour at work, or if you do have time to step out during the day, and get those minutes in outside while the visibility is high. If you don't have a good block in the afternoon, you can split your normal time up. So if you like to exercise for an hour or 30 minutes, you can do 15 minutes in the morning, you can do 15 minutes at night while you have that visibility on either end, or you can break it down even further than that and do 3 sets of 10 minutes, do 3 10-minute walks, do 6 5-minute walks. At the end of the day, you're still getting in all those minutes. You just split it up into a way that worked for you to be outside.
Right. No, I think, and like I was telling you earlier, I think that's very helpful, because a lot of the time when I'm planning my exercise, I'm like, I need to have like a solid 2 hours or an hour and a half to get in like my training, but dividing that into like half, or maybe even like 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, 15 minutes in the evening, to still get that same total is helpful, because I don't feel as overwhelmed by all that time. And if you are someone who does get overwhelmed, like, oh, an hour of exercise, like that's so much, dividing it would be helpful, and so that you don't have to think, oh, is it like, it's not just an hour, it's 15 minutes here, and then throughout the day I'm still getting that hour, but not all at once. So I thought that was very helpful.
And everyone likes more breaks, right? We all complain that all we do all day is sit, and then none of us want to take that 5 minutes to be a little active every hour. So yeah, that's always a good tip that we like to recommend.
And something
regardless
also,
of season.
yeah, I mean, getting into the indoor, I think one thing that, like you said, if you are someone who struggles to be active, especially as the weather gets colder, you're not as motivated, the sun goes down earlier, because I love exercising outside. So if you're like me and exercising indoors is not that fun, go into the indoor portion of this, using the time in between, if you're watching like a video, or like in the ad or TV and there's a commercial. I know a lot of us will like watch Netflix and there's no commercials, which is why we kind of like Netflix, right? But if we are watching TV and there are breaks in between, or pausing it at a time where, you know, you feel you could pause and get that 15 minutes in and then continue to watch it. So you actually want to get that workout in, because you're like, oh, I want to see the next part of the video. But actually like disciplining yourself to say, I cannot watch the rest of the video until I get this exercise in the middle, and that'll kind of motivate you to also get those few minutes in between. So,
or combine it and watch your Netflix while you walk on your treadmill.
Yeah, or do both.
Do some strength training exercises. Yes. I always tell my personal training clients, like, if you're just watching TV, you can do squats and still see your TV. Right. You can do some core workouts and still see everything.
Yes.
So you can do both. You can always get that in too. That adds some easy inside exercise that you can get in the winter and not have to be freezing.